There should be no doubt Saddam's ability to produce and deliver weapons of mass destruction poses a grave threat to the peace of that region and the security of the world. His defiance of the will of the international community to allow UNSCOM to do its job cannot and will not be tolerated.
The only answer to aggression and illegal behavior is firmness, determination, and when necessary, action. Let there be no doubt we are prepared to act. The UN weapons inspection system itself. Yes, he has tried to thwart it in every conceivable way, but the discipline, determination, year in, year out effort of these weapons inspectors is doing the job, and we seek to finish the job. But Saddam Hussein could end this crisis tomorrow, simply by letting the weapons inspectors complete their mission. He made a solemn commitment to the international community to do that and to give up his weapons of mass destruction a long time ago now. In the next century, the community of nations may see more and more of the very kind of threat Iraq poses now. A rogue state with weapons of mass destruction, ready to use them or provide them to terrorists, drug traffickers, or organized criminals. If we fail to respond today, Saddam and all those who would follow in his footsteps will be emboldened tomorrow by the knowledge that they can act with impunity.
Involving Saddam Hussein, American leadership and our willingness to stand firm against the continued development of weapons of mass destruction.
But Iraq must understand that our patience is not infinite, and at some point we will have to act to reduce the menace posed by Iraq's weapons of mass destruction and to reduce Iraq's ability to threaten its neighbors.
To find and destroy the missiles to deliver those weapons, to make sure Iraq does not build more. If Iraq fails to comply this time, to provide immediate, unrestricted, unconditional access to the weapons inspectors, there will be serious consequences. To give up all of its biological, chemical, and nuclear weapons, the missiles to deliver them, and the capacity to rebuild its arsenal. The United States remains resolved and ready to secure, by whatever means necessary, Iraq's full compliance with its commitment to destroy its weapons of mass destruction.
I ordered America's armed forces to strike military and security targets in Iraq. They are joined by British forces. Their mission is to attack Iraq's nuclear, chemical, and biological weapons programs.
I think it would be naive to the point of grave danger not to believe that, left to his own devices, Saddam Hussein will provoke, misjudge, or stumble into a future more dangerous confrontation with the civilized world. He has as much as promised.
The threat of Saddam Hussein with weapons of mass destruction is real.
We know that he has stored away secret supplies of biological weapons and chemical weapons throughout his country.
There is no doubt that Saddam Hussein's regime is a serious danger, that he is a tyrant, and that his pursuit of lethal weapons of mass destruction cannot be tolerated. He must be disarmed.
Iraq's search for weapons of mass destruction has proven impossible to completely deter, and we should assume that it will continue for as long as Saddam is in power.
A brutal, oppressive dictator, guilty of personally murdering and condoning murder and torture, grotesque violence against women, execution of political opponents, a war criminal who used chemical weapons against another nation, and of course, as we know, against his own people, the Kurds. I would have voted for the authority. I believe it was the right authority for a president to have.
This is a great day of pride in the American military, a great day for the Iraqis, and a great day for the American people. And frankly, a great day for the administration. I think President Bush deserves a day of celebration. We have our policy differences, but we won't be discussing those today. I think he deserves a day to celebrate as well.
Incidentally, you know, Governor Dean and some other people didn't even think it was great. They didn't even know that it was good to get rid of Saddam Hussein.
This is a very important development, but we got a long way to go. And I've been saying for a long time, and I say today, the president still needs to get the help that we need in bringing this matter to a successful conclusion.
There's no question that Iraq poses biological and chemical weapons. That's not in doubt. And that he seeks to acquire additional weapons of mass destruction, including nuclear weapons. That's not in debate.
Saddam Hussein is a tyrant who has tortured and killed his own people, even his own family members, to maintain his iron grip on power. He used chemical weapons on Iraqi Kurds and on Iranians, killing over 20,000 people. As a condition for ending the conflict, the United Nations imposed a number of requirements on Iraq, among them disarmament of all weapons of mass destruction, stocks used to make such weapons, and laboratories necessary to do the work. Saddam Hussein agreed, and an inspection system was set up to ensure compliance. And though he repeatedly lied, delayed, and obstructed the inspection's work, the inspectors found and destroyed far more weapons of mass destruction capability than were destroyed in the Gulf War, including thousands of chemical weapons, large volumes of chemical and biological stocks, a number of missiles and warheads, a major lab equipped to produce anthrax and other bioweapons, as well as substantial nuclear facilities. In 1998, Saddam Hussein pressured the United Nations to lift the sanctions by threatening to stop all cooperation with the inspectors. In an attempt to resolve the situation, the UN, unwisely in my view, agreed to put limits on inspections of designated sovereign sites, including the so-called presidential palaces, which in reality were huge compounds well suited to hold weapons labs, stocks, and records which Saddam Hussein was required by UN resolution to turn over. When Saddam blocked the inspection process, the inspectors left. As a result, President Clinton, with the British and others, ordered an intensive 4-day air assault, Operation Desert Fox, on known and suspected weapons of mass destruction sites and other military targets. In 1998, the United States also changed its underlying policy toward Iraq from containment to regime change and began to examine options to effect such a change, including support for Iraqi opposition leaders within the country and abroad. In the 4 years since the inspectors left, intelligence reports show that Saddam Hussein has worked to rebuild his chemical and biological weapons stock, his missile delivery capability, and his nuclear program. He has also given aid, comfort, and sanctuary to terrorists, including al-Qaeda members, though there is apparently no evidence of his involvement in the terrible events of September the 11th, 2001. It is clear, however, that if left unchecked, Saddam Hussein will continue to increase his capacity to wage biological and chemical warfare and will keep trying to develop nuclear weapons. Should he succeed in that endeavor, he could alter the political and security landscape of the Middle East, which, as we know all too well, affects American security. Now, this much is undisputed. The open questions are, what should we do about it? How, when, and with whom? Now, some people favor attacking Saddam Hussein now, with any allies we can muster, in the belief that one more round of weapons inspections would not produce the required disarmament, and that deposing Saddam would be a positive good for the Iraqi people, and would create the possibility of a secular democratic state in the Middle East, one which could perhaps move the entire region toward democratic reform. Now, this view has appeal to some because it would assure disarmament, because it would right old wrongs after our abandonment of the Shiites and Kurds in 1991, and our support for Saddam Hussein in the 1980s when he was using chemical weapons and terrorizing his people, and because it could give the Iraqi people a chance to build a future in freedom. However, this course is fraught with danger. We and our NATO allies did not depose Mr. Milosevic, who was responsible for more than 250,000 people being killed in the 1990s. Instead, by stopping his aggression in Bosnia and Kosovo and keeping on the tough sanctions, we created the conditions in which his own people threw him out and led to his being in the dock, being tried for war crimes as we speak. If we were to attack Iraq now, alone or with few allies, it would set a precedent that could come back to haunt us. In recent days, Russia has talked of an invasion of Georgia to attack Chechen rebels. India has mentioned the possibility of a preemptive strike on Pakistan. And what if China were to perceive a threat from Taiwan? So, Mr. President, for all its appeal, a unilateral attack, while it cannot be ruled out, on the present facts is not a good option. Now, others argue that we should work through the United Nations and should only resort to force if and when the United Nations Security Council approves it. Now, this too has great appeal for different reasons. The UN deserves our support. Whenever possible, we should work through it and strengthen it, for it enables the world to share the risks and burdens of global security, and when it acts, it confers a legitimacy that increases the likelihood of long-term success. The UN can help lead the world into a new era of global cooperation, and the United States should support that goal. But there are problems with this approach as well. The United Nations is an organization that is still growing and maturing. It often lacks the cohesion to enforce its own mandates. And when Security Council members use the veto on occasion for reasons of narrow-minded interests, it cannot act. In Kosovo, the Russians did not approve NATO military action because of political, ethnic, and religious ties to the Serbs. The United States, therefore, could not obtain a Security Council resolution in favor of the action necessary to stop the dislocation and ethnic cleansing of more than 1 million of Kosovar Albanians. Over 11 years have passed since the UN called on Saddam Hussein to rid himself of weapons of mass destruction as a condition of returning to the world community. Time and time again, he has frustrated and denied these conditions. This matter cannot be left hanging forever with consequences we would all live to regret. In balancing the risks of action versus inaction, I think New Yorkers who have gone through the fires of hell may be more attuned to the risk of not acting. I know that I am. So it is with conviction that I support this resolution as being in the best interests of our nation. A vote for it is not a vote to rush to war. It is a vote that puts awesome responsibility in the hands of our president. And it is a vote that says clearly to Saddam Hussein, this is your last chance. Disarm or be disarmed.